Welcome to the Two Money Guys podcast, where we use pop culture to teach personal finance. We interview celebrities and share inspirational success stories. Speaking of success, that is today's topic. What is success? What does it take to achieve success? And how much does success really matter? It is I, Robert, the middle-aged money man, along with your money geek, Michael Dinich. Let's get into the show. Let's roll that intro. As we said, today's show is about success, and today's article comes from MillionaireDojo.com, and the article is entitled, Persistence is the Key to Success and Wealth. And basically what this article sums up are the keys on how to become successful and gain wealth through, obviously, what the title says, persistence. But what the author says is basically, don't give up. He found himself basically an athlete in his younger years, and he's saying, I could have been a professional athlete if I just didn't give up, but he ended up giving up. So he kind of thinks back on that in terms of, I wonder what I could have really done if I could have become a professional athlete, if I just would have been persistent and stuck with it. So one of the keys, the first key is don't give up. So to become successful, it seems kind of obvious to me, Michael, but you can't give up on something if you want to be successful at it. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to me, but you can't give up on it to become successful. You have to stick with it, and you have to continue with it.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people just give up on things too quickly. Maybe they start out, they think things are going to be easy. It ends up being a little harder than they think. And, they end up giving up.
Yeah. And I mean, that rolls into another principle. It takes time. So a lot of people give up because they're not seeing instant results. So another one of the principles from this article is it takes time. Things aren't going to come right away. If things come right away, if results come right away and you're instantly successful, it may not be as worthwhile as you think. Or if something doesn't take time or it's not as difficult as you think it is, maybe it's not worth being successful at. If you're going to start an online business or be an entrepreneur selling things, his example was selling things on eBay. He sells things on eBay. You start small. It's going to take time to build the business. It's going to take time to get inventory. It's going to take time to put the listings up. You're not going to see a huge number of sales right away. So you kind of have to, and just like blogs, just like our blogs, you don't see a huge traffic statistics right away. I mean, it takes months, if not years, to see that traffic come in because you have to build up your audience. And that's why I think a lot of blogs, switching over to the blog aspect, I think that's why a lot of blogs disappear after, say, 6 months because they're not seeing the traffic they think they should see, but yet they don't realize that it takes the amount of time it takes. Don't you think?
Yeah, I do. I think they say the statistics is like 6 months for a blog. And the key to not giving up, I think, is to have realistic expectations. I think that's one of the problems where people think that things are going to be really easy, maybe blogging or setting up a business or side hustle. They just think, well, I'm going to go online and I'm going to make a bunch of money overnight. So they have unrealistic expectations. So they're really setting themselves to get, up to give up because they didn't have realistic expectations. So if you're going to get involved in something like that, you have to put the work in. One of my favorite quotes, one of my favorite business quotes is from a weightlifter, professional bodybuilder, Ronnie Coleman.
Love Ronnie.
His quote is, everyone wants to be a bodybuilder, but nobody wants to lift no heavy ass weights. I think there's a lot to that, right? Like everybody wants the results. Everyone wants the fun, but they don't want to do the work of getting up early and putting in, the time to do things. So, the first key to not giving up is being realistic about what it's going to take to achieve the success you're hoping for.
Absolutely. And what you said in the beginning of your comment there actually rolls into a third principle or a third step that he has is find out if your goal is unrealistic. No matter how persistent you are. If you just can't do it, you can't do it. You have to have somebody there to tell you that, if you're trying out for American Idol or you're trying out to sing and you just don't have a voice, you just need somebody there to say, listen, buddy, it's just not going to happen, and be real with you. You truly have to sit down and ask yourself if you have the potential for what you're trying to do. Because if your goal is truly unrealistic, it doesn't matter how much time or effort or persistence you have with that, it's not going to happen for you. There are some things that people just aren't cut out for, and that's something I truly believe. You kind of have to be cut from a certain cloth to do some things, and some people just aren't cut from that cloth.
Yeah, I think so. I noticed, and earlier we were talking about our kids, before the show, and I think that's one of the, kind of things we see in parenting today, where everyone kind of tells their kids you can do whatever you want. And it's like, well, yeah, you want to encourage your kids to do whatever you want. But like, I also know, like, okay, my son, he's not that tall. He's probably not going to become a professional basketball player, right? We got to kind of know, what our assets are and what our limitations are. So even though he might not necessarily be physically in the situation where he can be a professional basketball player, he can maybe make a great wrestler. So it's all about finding what makes us special and really capitalizing on that. And part of that's going to be being realistic about, we're not all cut out to do the same things and achieve the same things in life. And that's okay.
Yeah. And I'm not saying don't try it. I mean, you should definitely try. If you have the opportunity, and it's like episode 3 with John Tague, if you have the opportunity and the opportunity presents itself, seize it and try it. If you fail, you fail, but at least you know that you tried it and it's not for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other end of it too. And I'm a really big fan of, big dreams. I think everybody should dream big and set big goals and big expectations in life. Because if you shoot for it, it's one of those situations where if you shoot for the moon and you don't make it, you'll hit a star. So I do think that people should dream big and shoot for the big things, but you got to have a bit of a grounding in reality with that as well.
Absolutely. And that's actually my daughter's favorite saying. So I love that you brought that up. Even at 12, 13 years old, she's believing that and she's thinking that same thing, which is awesome. All right. So again, that article is from millionairedojo.com. Persistence is the key to success and wealth. Check it out if you have a chance. And now on to the interview. All right, today we would like to welcome the award-winning author of the As the World Dies trilogy and the host of the Z Nation podcast, Rhiannon Frater, to the show. How are you doing today, Rhiannon?
I'm doing great. It's Friday. I went and did my early voting, and I don't have to stand in line now on election day. They're like, final day of early voting. I'm like, oh my God, I got to go do this. We walked right in. We really did. We literally walked back right in, and when we came out, there was a line forming. I think everyone had gotten their kids from school and had gone to the voting place. So we just barely beat the rush on the voting. So
we definitely encourage everybody to go out and vote. So definitely do that. So how are you doing today? I mean, you went out and voted.
Mm-hmm.
What's the weather like in Texas today?
It is in the higher 70s, bright sunlight, fluffy clouds.
Oh, you're lucky.
It's a pretty day, and then doesn't mean that we won't get slammed with something. It's Texas. Come on. Yeah. It's like you can have a beautiful sunny day. It's so beautiful, and all of a sudden the clouds come in and it's raining for 3 weeks straight. So you never know. Right. Yeah.
So you're a longtime horror fiction writer and a zombie enthusiast.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me a little bit about how you became interested in the world of horror and zombies in particular?
God, this is a long answer. Let's see if I can make it small. Okay, why I love scary stuff. I blame it on my grandfather, the original R. Frater. He loved everything scary. I mean, he was a big fan of Bela Lugosi, and he'd go see the matinees. And my mom remembers being dragged to the cinema to see the re-release of Dracula way back in the day, probably in the 50s. So, but the weird thing is, I was raised in Texas and he was in Ohio, and I really didn't get to see him that much. This is back in the days of the speed limit was 55. It would take 3-4 days to get to Ohio. So we didn't get to see him that much. And he never told me anything about loving all things scary, but as I like to put it, but I ended up with a passion for it. And I started where he did, Dracula, but I read the book. And then after I read the book, I wanted to see the movie, and I found a really old VHS at the local library, and I loved it. And then I discovered Hammer films and Old Republic films, and that's kind of where it started for me. And of course, if you're looking at the old stuff, then you eventually get to the Night of the Living Dead. And I didn't see that one first. I actually saw a piece of Day of the Dead. It was on HBO. I was flipping channels, and it was the scene where Rhodes gets pulled apart. And I was probably like 8 or 9 at the time, so I promptly threw up. So that scared me about zombies for a while. But I finally saw Night of the Living Dead probably when I was a teenager, and I really liked it. The black and white was amazing. And then I later saw the remake. And then I one night I was watching it because it was on TV, and it scared me so bad. I don't know what it was, the frame of mind I was in. I was like, I will never watch this again until I have a boyfriend or I'm married, which was what happened. I made my husband sit and watch the entire trilogy, and then we went to go see the remake in 2004. And that's when that totally rebooted my love of zombies. And that's when I started writing As the World Dies on a forum that no longer exists, where a bunch of people were writing zombie fiction.
Yeah, I saw that you wrote that as on a forum, and then you actually wrote it as a trilogy, almost as a demand. People wanted it then in book form.
Right. And it was like, I downloaded it. It was nearly 400,000 words long.
Wow.
It was so long. And I remember somebody attacked me and said, oh, she's going for a money grab by splitting it into 3 books. I'm like, no, you don't understand how big this is. This thing is huge. I self-published it. Well, I wasn't planning to self-publish it. I had actually, because people wanted it, I tried to get an agent, but nobody was interested in zombies, especially with 2 female protagonists. I wanted to submit it to Bermuda Press, who at the time was owned by Jacob Keir. And it was funny because later on, Jacob did try to pick up the trilogy after I self-published it, and I told him no. But my husband said to me when I'd come home from work, I used to work at a governmental consulting firm, and I'd come home and he met me at the door and he goes, hey, let's go out to eat. I have something important to talk to you about your writing. And I'm like, okay. And I thought, okay, is this going to be I think you should give up on your writing thing, or it's going nowhere, or, what is this talk going to be? And he started talking to me about self-publishing. In 2007, my brain automatically went to Vanity Press, which is, when you would pay somebody to print up your book, and you'd get like, 1,000, 5,000 copies in big boxes that you stored in your garage until they rotted away because you couldn't sell them or anything like that. And he's like, no, it's all different. He says, Amazon's starting this new thing. They have Kindle books, which is ebooks. And then there's CreateSpace, which does physical books. You could actually do physical copies and it was still through the Amazon store. So we went home. He showed me everything he had looked up, and we ended up self-publishing the trilogy. And right as Fighting to Survive was out and doing well, that's when Hollywood came knocking, and I got an entertainment lawyer, and he sold the option. And then the entertainment lawyer said, hey, why don't we try and get you an agent? And I'm like, you don't understand. I've tried querying for X amount of years, and I've never been able to get through the door. And he's like, let me take care of it. Next thing I know, I'm on the phone having an agent pitch to me who had read the books and loved them. So I ended up with an agent, and the agent then sold it to Tor. And I've done 4 books with Tor, and I'm now in discussions about writing a 5th book. So they published the As the World Dies trilogy, and then they published Dead Spots, which is my supernatural horror novel, which I think is probably the scariest book I've ever written. So now we're discussing a 5th book with them. And I also self-publish other stuff, because what people don't understand is that agents try to sell books that they know will sell, and editors try to only buy books that they know will sell, which means you could write the world's best mermaid novel, but if mermaids aren't hot, you're not going to get that book sold for you. You could write the most amazing book on zombies, but if zombies are no longer considered to be in, you're not going to get that book published by a big publisher. In fact, my agent and I just had this conversation about what's being bought, what's hot, what's not, and everything. And it's like, okay, so what do I have on my plate that could go into that category? So that's why I self-published, because a lot of people thought that I was just going to sell my whole backlist to publishers. But I basically publish what they're not looking for, but what my fans are looking for. So.
Oh, that's cool. Is writing your main gig now, or is it a side hustle? Are you still working?
No, I have some health issues that make it very difficult for me to hold down a full-time job and then write full-time. There are people who are completely healthy and can go and work 8 hours a day and go home and write 8 hours a day. I'm not one of those people. I have some chronic pain issues, and there's some days I can't walk very well. Mm-hmm. And I have severe arthritis in my hands. And this is because when I started writing when I was 10, and I was writing in notebooks and on an electric typewriter. And by the time I was I was 21 when the doctor was going, you need to slow down or you are not going to be able to hold a pen by the time you're 30.
Oh, wow.
Because I was writing so ferociously all the time. I was writing so fast that my entire hand, my arm, I had to go to physical therapy because I was basically just wrecking my joints. That's why I invested in a word processor, and then personal computers came out and I got a personal computer. But then I was writing on a non-ergonomic keyboard. So by the time ergonomic keyboards rolled around, I had done a lot of damage to my joints. So I dictate now as of August, and I'm still learning how to do it, but it's definitely increased my word count because I used to be somebody who could write 5,000, 10,000 words a day on the weekend because that's the only time I had to write. And then when I went full time, after I sold the books to Tor, I was able to go full time. I would write a lot, and it just made the problem worse. So at the beginning of this year, I couldn't do 500 words without excruciating pain and having to ice my hands. And I was like, I have to do something different. So I've now started doing dictation, and it's an adventure, especially because sometimes Dragon has no idea what my Southern accent is saying.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, my Texas twang pops up. So,
have you written a full book with dictation yet?
Oh, I'm getting there. I'm almost done on one of them. It won't be the full book written with dictation, but I've definitely gotten a lot more done on it, probably more than half of it. Because I went from doing like 5,000 words a day to now with dictation, I can do maybe 3,000. I'm building up to it, but some of it's gibberish because every once in a while, I have my Texas twang come out and Dragon goes, say what? So, but I'll be honest with you. Sometimes what I would write by hand on my keyboard was gibberish. That's what
Dragon doesn't have the Texas version yet?
No. And I don't even have that bad of a Texas accent.
No, you don't.
Not as bad as some people, but it's enough that sometimes Dragon's like, huh? What? Please repeat.
It's funny. We did an interview with Javin Bonds. He's another zombie author, and he uses Dragon because he's legally blind and deaf. And he said the same thing, that he has issues with his Southern accent.
Oh, so yeah.
Dragon doesn't.
It's funny. I mean, it amuses me because sometimes when I'm revising, I'm like, what the hell was I saying? Because I can't figure it out. I literally cannot figure it out. So.
Well, I know the first book of the trilogy, I know that won the Dead Letter Award.
Oh, yeah. The first two did, actually. But the third one didn't qualify because it came out right when the voting was happening. So it kind of fell into this gray area. So, but it's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. 2 out of 3 is not bad.
I'm okay with
that. And the third one would have won if
it
would have fell within that time frame. But, I mean, we like to talk, and we like to have our audience to discuss ways to better ourselves and to become better people and so forth. That's one of the major aspects of the show. And one of the topics we like to discuss is success and how to become more successful, but not necessarily in a monetary way, but in a self-fulfillment way. So, I mean, how did winning those awards, did that change the way you went about your writing any differently? I mean, how do you define success in your career, I guess, is my question. Did that add to your success in your mind at all? Or did you really need those awards to think you're a successful writer?
I'll be honest with you. There's several different acknowledgments that I've gotten that, okay, this is the truth. Every writer thinks they're a god and every writer thinks they're a hack at the same time. Okay. we just do. We have the biggest ego, and at the same time, we're filled with self-doubt. It's just the strangeness. And if one's missing one or the other, I don't trust them. So one of the things is the Dead Letter Awards for the First Days and Fighting to Survive basically told me that the target audience for those books loved those books. And I was told that the First Days won by a large margin because it was voted on by people who love the genre. And that meant a lot to me. When the First Days got a starred review from Publishers Weekly, that was another goal I had in my personal writing career. That was kind of like getting an acknowledgement from the critics, like the publishing critics. I was writing something that was of quality, that not only the zombie fans liked, but people who actually critique writing also would like. When Bastion got the #1 book, The Last Bastion of the Living, which is my futuristic zombie book, which is I call sci-fi horror. When it got called the best zombie book of the last decade by Barnes & Noble's Explorations, that to me said, okay, this book that you had so much self-doubt and worried about and cried over is good. And that again was by people who love the genre. So every time my books end up on this book should be made into a movie, or this book is great and you should go read it, or whatever, to me, it's an acknowledgement that what I wrote is what people want to read and they're enjoying it. Because when I'm alone with myself, writing my books in my solitary state, listening to my music, I'm writing for me. It's a story I want to read. So anything, even the Silver Stake Award that I got from the Vampire Film Festival for The Lament of the Vampire Bride, even though that was second place, that still meant so much to me, because that, again, was a series that I did 10 years of research on. It took me forever to write that series because it's historical. It's about Dracula. It's about, a time period I did not live in. It takes place in an area of the world I don't know. I've never been there, which is funny because I still have Hungarians to this day asking me when I visited. I busted my butt. So every time I get something like that, it's an acknowledgement that they like the work. Does it change anything that I do? No, because I'm still writing the books I want to read.
So how much promoting of your work do you do?
Oh my God. That's kind of a loaded question. I'll be honest with you. I was sick for 3 years. I had a major setback and I don't want to say I lost because I did write. I just wasn't as prolific and it was a really hard time for me. But I wasn't having the productivity that I had before, and I definitely could not commit to any kind of contract with a publisher at that time because I don't know if I could have even hit my deadline because I was so ill. So at that time, I wasn't really plugged in to what was happening in publishing. When I came back, it had all changed. Everything that used to work doesn't work now. So I'm still learning. And one of the things that I try to do, and I do pay for paid advertising. I do newsletter exchanges with other writers. I do try to participate in like group sales events where a book is 99 cents for 2 weeks and you get everybody that has their sale lets all their fans know on social media and through newsletters and stuff. I do that kind of promotion. I occasionally buy an ad, like Book Sends. I have yet to get a BookBub ad. And those are pretty costly too, I won't lie. But I do some of that kind of advertising, and we do group advertising and then some ads on Amazon. And that's everything you need to do to maintain your visibility. But I do think the strongest thing that I probably do right now, or the thing that I have the most control over, is how much I open myself up to the readership, to other authors, and to podcasts. If people want to talk to me, I will talk to them. If they reach out to me, I will respond. Because I feel by being honest about my writing and who I am, that's probably the best way for people to connect with me and then maybe be interested in my writing if they've never heard of me before. And I try to be authentic and I try to be accessible.
Yeah, you definitely do a great job of that. Do you have a social media strategy? I know you're pretty active on social media.
I'm actually redefining it a little bit. I was working with a social media manager, but she had to take a small break from it. And then we're trying to get back into it. Where I'm trying to really make sure people know who I am and where I'm coming from. Like me, I'm very careful about what I post. I do post about things I stay away from politics mostly just because I think Facebook is a quagmire when it comes to that. And I think those conversations are just preaching to the choir most of the time. But where I try to be very authentic is my struggle with mental illness and my struggle with chronic pain. The way I found to write, even though I was struggling with my hands hurting and stuff, I try to be authentic with, the ups and downs of stuff. But there are things I definitely don't talk about. I mean, things I keep very personal. Like I said, I try to be open with people, especially when people approach me and say, hey, how do you write a good character? Or how do you come up with plots? And I try to respond to those as much as possible.
And so what would you tell somebody that was maybe having trouble being productive writing, getting the writing in? Because there's all kinds of people that, they start projects, they want to be a writer, maybe they want to be a blogger, and they say, well, I don't have time, or I can't do it, or I don't have the inspiration. What advice would you give them?
Well, this is the truth. The difference between a writer and someone who's not a writer is finishing the book, finishing the project, finishing the blog post. There are plenty of people who say they want to be a writer or they want to be a blogger or whatever. They don't finish anything. So you have to make the conscious decision to finish it, even when you're bored, even when you hate it, even when you just can't even stand what you're working on and think it's crap. You have to finish it. And whatever it takes for you to finish it, you have to do it. If it's even setting, I will write 1 paragraph a day. I will write 100 words a day. I will write for 15 minutes. Whatever it is that it's going to provoke you to finish. Like, I remember at one point I was in a book that I hated. Oh my God, I hated this book. I love it now, but at the time I was like, it's going to kill me. I know I'm going to die. I told myself when I get done, I'm going to go buy myself a Betsy Johnson purse. Okay. So that was my reward, was this purse I had my eyeball on. So I finished it and went and bought the purse. But you have to find what works for you. And for every single person, that's going to be something different. For me, it's now using dictation. It's now me carving out a few hours every night when I'm not working on my social media stuff or writing down notes or answering emails or whatever it is, where I just concentrate on the story and I just try and make it work. And so it's a lot of different things, and I think sometimes if the well is dry, go binge watch something. That's what I do.
Oh, that's awesome. So what's next for you?
Well, right now, I have one book that just came out, The Midnight Spell, which is a book I had actually written with my best friend. If you love Buffy and Charmed, you'll love this book. We had a lot of fun writing it, and I wrote for Christy and he wrote for Adam, and it's 2 kids that are in high school. And my friend is a gay writer, so Adam is gay and Christy is a witch. I'm not a real witch in real life. Well, not with Samantha Powers, at least. And Christy's a witch, and kids have always picked on them their whole life. They live in a little town in Texas. And Christy decides to do a love spell for Adam to draw his true love to him. And of course, everything goes wrong. So that was a lot of fun. And that had been published by a small press, and we got the rights back. And The Mesmerized is the same thing. The Mesmerized is about a woman I got that back too, and it's about a woman who's on vacation in Las Vegas when all of a sudden a supernatural event happens where everyone becomes mesmerized. In other words, they're in a trance-like state, and they all start heading into the desert. And then she finds out it's just not Las Vegas. It's like spreading out slowly all over the world, and people are dying, and it's catastrophic, and planes are dropping out of the sky. And it's up to her to try and save her family, her 2 little girls, and her husband, because they too are caught in the event. So I had a lot of fun writing that. So those are the books that are coming out this month. And then I'm finishing up Escape to the Last Bastion, which is a prequel to The Last Bastion of Living. I have a gothic horror story that's on the Radish app called The Impaled Bride, which takes place in medieval times. And it has witches and vampires, and it's dark. It's very dark horror. And then I'm about to pitch to my editor at Tor, and hopefully we can find an idea that we both love so I can write a book for them. And I have another book that I'm prepping for my agent to pitch. So I have a lot going on.
You really do. You are really busy lately.
And I have a lot of books I have that are in the pipeline that need to be written. I need to write the 3rd book to the Hidden Necromancer series, which is a post-apocalyptic fantasy series called, the first one's The Unblessed Dead, the second's The Accused Dead, and I need to write The Cursed Dead, which is the 3rd book. So I have a lot going on, but I have no regrets because I'd rather be writing than anything else. It's been my passion since I was a little girl, and I found out what books are. So, yeah.
Well, you better get the Texas twang module for that Dragon Naturally Speak.
Look, my poor hands. I mean, seriously, the other day when I was dictating, I looked down and my thumbs were like quivering, and I was just like, oh, thank God I can dictate this because my hands would not survive. I mean, my hands are, some days they're better than others, but look, if you're a young writer, ergonomic keyboard, wear braces now before you start having pain, and take care of your hands, because once they start going south, it only gets worse.
It's good advice.
Incredible. Well, we would like to thank you very much for sitting down with us today, Rhiannon, talking about your career, talking about your writing, talking about your past in Texas, your experiences in Texas.
I still am in Texas. So.
Yeah, you still are in Texas, and your future in Texas.
Yeah.
And we hope you'll come back when some more of your books come out, and we can talk about those when they come out, when they're published.
That would be amazing.
And we're going to have all the links to your social media and your website in the show notes.
And watch Z Nation and then listen to the Zcast at znationpodcast.com.
Wait, before we let you go, I got to ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
So what causes the Z-Poc?
In what? Z Nation?
No, just in anything. Like, what do you, I always ask people a geeky question. So, let's say the Z-Poc happened,
we
what's
forgot the geeky question.
Yeah. What's your prevailing opinion on what would cause the Z-Poc?
Okay. So from book to book, it switches. It really does. From book to book, it switches. So I don't want to talk about that because in one book, I do tell you. And in the other series, I don't tell you. I think if anything like the Z-Poc were to happen, I don't think they would be dead people. I think they would be infected. And I think it'd be some kind of version of rabies, which means it'd probably be a really short apocalypse because people would die. I think they'd burn themselves out. So that's what I think it would be. I think it would be a viral pandemic. I think it would happen for a very short window of time and then it would blow itself out. And I think the way it would be contained would be through quarantine. I think it would last a very short period of time. Not saying it wouldn't be devastating, but I think it's like, we've had the bath salts thing, like that guy in Florida eating the other dude.
That was crazy.
I had literally hundreds of messages pinging into my box. It's starting. Are you ready? I'm like, I'm in Texas. I'm fine. I'm not worried.
That's a book in and of itself there.
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion Texas survives the Z-Poc.
We're fine. I legitimately, when we had the shooter up on the UT Tower, one of the problems with getting to the top of the UT Tower for those poor policemen going up there to get him was that everybody down below was shooting up at him. So, because basically everyone got their guns out and started shooting. No, I think Texas would be fine. I think we'd be great. Houston would fall.
It'll all be quarantined in Florida anyway.
Yeah. It would start in Florida.
Everything strange happens in Florida.
Yeah. Houston would be toast. I think San Antonio and Austin might make it out okay. I think everyone outside the cities would definitely be fine. But Houston would be toast. They're too compact. They're too squeezed in. Sorry, Houston. You're a goner. That's my theory. Seriously, every once in a while, there's a news story that gets circulated about, this is it. This is the beginning. But I will tell you that bath salts guy eating the other dude's face, that was the first time I legitimately turned to my husband and said, how's our ammunition count? That was the first time I was like, are the guns loaded? Because
a man ate another man's face. We are starting now.
This might be it. That was the first time I legit went, huh, but we'll see what happens, but hopefully not. Oh. Like I said, I love the genre. That's why I've written so many books in it. And I think the most fun I have with writing is to take normal, everyday people and put them into horrific circumstances and then see if they rise or they fall to the occasion.
I like that.
Yep. That's an awesome theory. All right. Thank you very much again. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, it is now time for the listener question. The listener question is, with Christmas time coming around, how do I do my Christmas shopping and not go into debt?
That's a great question. And that comes up, I think, in every family, every holiday season. And it seems like every year we're bombarded with the commercials and everything to spend. And it's hard not to get sucked into that a little bit. So the first step is going to be know when to say no. It might be necessary. I don't know if you've done this in your family, Rob, but we've had to do this in our family where we kind of, all got together, the family members, and collectively decided, okay, we're just going to buy for the kids in the family. And we do a Secret Santa gift exchange for the adults.
Yep, we do that as well. Yes.
Yeah. Most people value experiences. They put a higher cash value on experiences than they do physical items. So instead of giving people maybe a gift card or giving kids an expensive toy, which they're probably going to be bombarded with, you can go to like the craft store, like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and you can pick up a package of beads and wire and glue and all kinds of crafting supplies. You can make a big basket of crafting supplies for $10 or $15. Take a child and spend a day with them making little jewelry or little crafts and things from them, and they're going to value that. Most likely they're going to value that experience long term much more than they're going to value some little trinket. Definitely do not want to go into debt for holiday spending. Please try to avoid that. But then the other thing too is, if you are going to go out and spend and do a little bit of things and you've saved up for it, we want to save as much money as possible. You have to use the coupon codes and discount apps that are out there. There's all kinds of great cashback credit cards that you can be using to get cash back on things. There's bonus points and everything you can use for shopping in certain stores. Do you do the credit card hacking, Rob?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. So credit card hacking is great.
Let's explain credit card hacking for those who don't know it.
Okay. So credit card hacking is just using the rewards programs on credit cards to get the best deal on things. So a lot of times, there's credit cards that will give you 1 or 2 or 3% cash back. Sometimes even during the holidays, I know like Discover will give up the 5% cash back.
Yeah, there are at times of the year, there are some great cashback offers, and you can really
and then you can even leverage those cashback offers a lot of times by convert the cashback into gift cards for the stores. A lot of times they'll give you a 50% bonus on the cashback, or sometimes even double your cashback.
Mm-hmm.
So those are great things to use. The other thing is, everyone always plugs Ebates, but Ebates really is great for getting cashback rewards on things that you're purchasing. If you have young children, I highly recommend you check out UPromise. UPromise allows you to get cash back for purchases you make and actually save for your child's education or children in your family.
We love that. Yep.
Yeah. I've actually went through and I scoured the internet looking for discount codes for people. So I actually have a shameless self-promotion alert. I have a blog post up on my blog on how to save up to 30% shopping. And there's some great discount codes on there. How to get $5 for free from Amazon. How to save 30% at Walmart. So that's a great thing to check out.
Yeah, the one thing we were discussing before the show is I didn't know you could use your Kohl's charge at Walmart.
Yeah, there's a coupon. I found the discount code that you can get up to 30% back your purchase at Walmart.com with your Kohl's card.
Yeah. Who would have known that? I mean, maybe we were just out of the loop, but I had no idea.
Yeah, my wife likes Kohl's, but we don't have a Kohl's card, so unfortunately, I can just tell. There's one of those situations where the cobbler's children have no shoes, right? So unfortunately, I like to test everything out I recommend, and I can't test that one out.
I'll tell you what, my wife does, and guess where we're going to go this weekend, I'm sure. So I'll let you know how that works. Well, right, we're not going to go. We're going to go to Walmart.com, but yeah.
Sure.
In my opinion, I do sort of the same things. I take the holidays, and when the kids were smaller, it was more about the quantity of gifts, I guess, not baby small, but when they were a little younger. Now, with all the electronics and everything else, it's kind of gotten to one big gift, which gets really expensive, and you can really go into debt with these things. I found now that they're a little more understanding. It's come down to more of experiences and more family time with me. They kind of get 1 or 2 choices, and we've gotten to the point where we save throughout the year. I mean, it's not necessarily like a Christmas club account, but we put some away throughout the year, and we kind of like get some small stuff throughout the year, not necessarily from January, but say May, June, we start picking up some little stuff that we may want to get for Christmas. So it's not all done at one time. I've noticed that if you go shopping in like the end of November and into December, it's like a spend fest. I mean, you don't even know where your money's going half the time, because you're just in the store and you're like, oh, so-and-so needs this and so-and-so needs this and I need this and that. And by the time you're done, you spend hundreds of dollars and you don't even know where it went. And you don't even know if you got everybody on your list. So, if you do certain things throughout the year and spread it out, I realize that new things come out throughout the year. So you may not get all the newest things, but then you just go back and get those. But don't do it all at once. It's very difficult to do all your Christmas shopping all at once. You're just it's going to be one big mess as far as your budget.
The thing I would remind people is check eBay. I think it was 1 or 2 years ago, my son was really into those Lego Dimension characters.
Yeah.
So some of the bigger sets were like $32 at GameStop. So I went online and I checked on eBay and I bought a whole lot of, it must have been like a store or something was going out of business, and they sold a whole lot of several sets of those Lego Dimension characters. My son had already had some of the sets that came in the lot. And what I was able to do is I was able to buy the lot, take the sets that he already had, put them back on eBay, and I sold the sets he didn't need on eBay for enough money that it paid for the whole thing.
I love that idea.
We also did it once with 12 Xbox controllers. My son wanted a new Xbox controller. So I went on eBay, and the Xbox controllers weren't selling for much less on eBay than what they're selling individually, but I found a lot of 12 of them. We have a local game shop in town, so I bought the 12 controllers, took the 2 controllers out for the kids, and then sold 10 brand new controllers to the local game store. I didn't get quite as much money to cover the whole thing, but I think I ended up paying out of pocket, like $50 for 2 Xbox controllers. And those Xbox controllers are like $100 in the store.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Check eBay. You can find some real great deals on eBay.
Yeah. With the technology nowadays on smartphones, there's no reason not to hit the apps and the codes and hit all that stuff. I mean, you're definitely going to save money. And I have this extension for Chrome that I use. It's called Honey. It automatically finds you the best deal when you go to websites.
Yeah.
It's worked for me.
Yeah. Another thing too is consider used. It might not be as glamorous or whatever, but a lot of times you can find some used items and, they're virtually indistinguishable from new items. And especially a lot of times with the kids. My son was really big into Skylander figures for a while, and we could go and get like 5 Skylander figures down at the local game shop for the price of one new one. So we'd maybe buy them like a new case for a Christmas present, right? And then we'd open it up put the used Skylanders in there. So he had like a new thing to open, but when he opened it up, it was the Skylanders he wanted in there, and we didn't end up paying full price for it.
All right. So there you go. Answers to your listener question. That should hold you over and keep you from going too far into debt this holiday season. All right, it is time for our takeaway portion of the show. In the beginning, we asked, what does it take to achieve success, and how much does it really matter? Well, we found out that in order to achieve success, you can't give up. Success takes time and persistence. You need to keep doing it on a regular basis in order to achieve success at something. You can't be afraid to fail. Failure is basically just becoming one step closer to succeeding. I just consider any of my failures practice to becoming successful at something. And you also need to make sure that your goals are realistic. Some people are just not cut out to do certain things, but that goes back to the previous point of don't be afraid to fail. You still need to try. In order to find out if you're not cut out to do that, you still need to try to do it and fail. We can't be afraid of failure because failure leads to success. Am I on track there, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't be afraid to fail. You never know where things are going to lead you in life. And, sometimes when you try things and you fail, that may lead you to what you're ultimately, supposed to be doing in life. So, you need to take advantage of opportunities and don't be afraid to fail.
All right. So we can agree on that my failures are everybody's practice, and we both fail to succeed. How about that? Is that good?
That's good.
All right, that wraps up our show today on success. We are Two Money Guys. You can find us at twomoneyguys.com. And again, go to the article on how to save up to 30% or more on Christmas presents on michaeldinich.net. That'll definitely save you some money this holiday season. You can find us at Two Money Guys on Twitter. Definitely leave us some reviews on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. And we will catch you next episode.